Give me just a moment.
Are
And
you gonna
we
have you have the flag for us?
I do. And
Okay.
we are now live on YouTube, and it is your meeting now, Mr. Complete.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ken. Welcome to the Lyon Township Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, May 27th, 2020. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance,
Pledge allegiance
to the flag
flag of the
of
United
America,
States
and to the republic for which it stands,
and
one
nation,
nation,
under
under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
and justice
to
for
all.
all.
Excellent. Kelly, if you take roll, please.
Sure. Patricia Carcone,
Here.
Jim Chuck,
here.
Michael Conflitti,
Here.
Ron Pennington,
Here.
Kurt Radke,
Here.
Carl Town.
Here.
All right, very good. Approval of tonight's agenda.
I'd make a motion to approve as submitted.
That's Carl Town, support by Jim Chuck. Take roll on that again, Kelly, please.
Yeah. Patricia Carcone,
Yes.
Jim Chuck,
Yes.
Michael Conflitti,
Yes.
Ron Pennington,
Yes.
Kurt Radke,
Yes.
and Carl Town.
Yes.
All
Mr.
right.
Chairman, do we
Yes,
need
sir.
a motion to excuse Mr. Hoffman?
We do. Do you want to give him a few more minutes or no? We could-
If we excuse him now and he comes on, I guess it's just stricken from the records, correct?
Yeah, it can be
That's-
noted in the minutes that he's attended and what time he showed
Okay,
up.
then I'll make a motion
Okay.
to excuse Mr. Hoffman from tonight's meeting.
All right, there's Jim Chuck,
Support.
support by Kurt Radke. Kelly, roll please.
Carl Town,
No.
Kurt Radke,
Wait, I'm confused. We're supposed to say yes. We're excusing him, correct?
Well, he never called in, so my answer is no.
I'll say yes.
okay, Ron Pennington,
Yes.
Michael Conflitti,
Yes.
Jim Chuck,
Yes.
Patricia Carcone. Patty,
Yes. Sorry, I was trying to fix my computer a little bit. Sorry.
Okay. Approval of consent agenda from the May 11th, 2020 minutes.
Motion to approve.
Support.
That was Jim Chuck. Made the motion, Patricia supported. Kelly, roll.
Yeah. Ron Pennington,
Yes.
Kurt Radke,
Yes.
Patricia Carcone,
Yes.
Jim Chuck,
Yes.
Michael Conflitti,
Yes.
Carl Town.
Yes.
All right, very good. Yeah, when making a motion, please state your name first. Just
Sounds like-
so we got it. Okay. Comments from the public. Ken, do we have anyone waiting?
We have no traditional telephone callers in the public.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, this
Yes,
is
sir.
Jim Chuck. Can I make just a general comment on a
Please.
non-agenda item?
Please do.
The Lion Events Organization, Leo, for the past 11 years has had a kite festival, which we had to cancel because of the situation. However, we are going to come up with a modified version. Saturday, June 6th, from 11 to 3, we will be offering any child a kite that comes up to the Township Hall. As long as they bring a food donation, we're going to have a food drive, and that food will be donated back to Act of Faith for people in our community. So just wanted to put that in the minutes, in the records. If you know of friends, relatives, kids, neighbors, let them know. We're trying to get some publicity from one of the TV stations. It's all over Facebook. So just something we wanted to do, and we will have one kite in the air. John Trenopel will be flying a remote kite. So we're just trying to do something nice for the community.
Good
What was
job.
the time? Jim, what was the time again, please?
11 to 3, Saturday, June 6th.
Thank you.
Good job, Jim.
Very
Thank you.
nice. Thanks,
Mr.
Jim.
Chair,
Yes.
if you would,
Ken, we're waiting on one more. My associate Chris Madigan may be in the waiting room.
Yes, I see the name now.
Would you mind letting him in, please?
Yes, he's coming in now.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Is Tina speaking tonight? Do we know? No, she's
I don't think
not?
she is.
Okay, all right.
Brian, you're the guest speaker tonight. You can interrupt anytime.
Actually, Chris was going to be running the show for us tonight.
Oh, that's
So
good. That's
if
good.
he was stuck in the waiting room, I was going to be mine, I suppose.
All right. Well, when you're ready, Brian, we'll start us off with AP 2017 zoning ordinance text amendment on signs.
Hey, everybody. So, I'll let you go, Brian.
No, I was just going to turn it over to you. This evening, I'm going to let Chris run through these amendments. He's written
Okay.
a lot of them, and I'd like his direction to the Planning Commission.
All right.
Thank you. So I know that the last meeting, Brian gave you a draft version of the sign ordinance. As we propose it, and tonight is the public hearing for that. So there's no recommendation needed from the Planning Commission, but it will be coming back to you for the public hearing at the next meeting. And so before that, we wanted to see if there were any comments or questions that you had before we presented a more final version to you.
We want to run like we did last week, go alphabetical?
Yes.
Okay. Patty, do you want to start? Do you have, you're muted.
I didn't have anything on that.
Okay. Mr. Chuck?
No, I think it's fine. Excuse me. I read it over and, again, I think signs that help our business people in our community, I think it's essential. And I thought, the way it was written was fine. So that's my comments.
All right. Me also, I was fine with it. Mr. Hoffman's not here. Mr. Pennington?
Yeah, I agree. I think it looked fine to me. I didn't see anything that jumped out that needed to be changed.
All right. Kurt Radke?
I'm fine with it.
All right. Carl Town?
Yeah, I think as a whole, this whole planning commission worked on the first sign ordinance, so there's only the few things have been added. So I'm anxious to find out in the public hearing what's brought forward. So I'll wait for the public hearing.
All right. And now that's scheduled for June 8th, correct? The public hearing?
Correct.
Okay.
If I meant to add one more thing to you guys, for you guys before you jumped in, but we are, because the building department has started taking applications again, we're getting sign permits, and we've been, as we've gotten sign permits, we've been reviewing them against the current ordinance and the proposed ordinance to find any issues that may have come up. And so that's something that we'll keep doing. And it has already brought up one issue. We left out wall signs in the mixed use and New Hudson districts. And so in your draft, those will at your public hearing, the wall signs will be present in those districts, and we'll keep going through them to make sure we didn't miss anything else.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Chris.
Can I add one thing, Mike?
Sure.
Chris, if you could maybe draw some support from some of the business in the DDA and have one or two of them show up for our next meeting, the public hearing.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Good idea. All right. Okay. Anything else? Okay. All right. Then we'll move on. AP 20-09 Consumers Energy North Lyon City Gate reconstruction site plan. Is it Chris again? Right?
Okay. So the site plan, this site plan is from Consumers Energy, and they are proposing to construct a roughly 1,500 square foot building with essential equipment such as pipes and valves on about an 1.25 acre site And the site is currently occupied by Consumers Energy, and the proposed building and equipment are replacements of existing facilities.
Chris, if I could jump in here for just a moment. If you have any
Sure.
other devices that are using internet, could you please turn them off, your phone or anything else? We're getting a
Yes.
little bit of a broken signal, and if you can move closer to your Wi-Fi, that would help also. Sorry to interrupt.
Certain. No. I will move closer. Sorry about that, Eddie.
It is not better, unfortunately. I think that's what you tried to say.
I'm sorry.
There we go. We can hear you now. It's still a little bit broken, but again, if you have any telephones or any other iPads or even cable TV in the house, if you could see if they could be turned off while we're on the meeting, that would help.
Sure.
While Chris is getting that figured out, I can continue to go through the review so we're not here for a while this evening. The site plan, or the site is existing and currently used for a similar use by consumers on the east side of Old Plank Road. It is in the I-1 zoning district. Essential services, which is how the zoning ordinance defines the use, are permitted by right in the district. The facility itself is comprised of pipes and valves and a unmanned building. There is no, as we understand it, there are no permanent employees who will be occupying the building. So, things like parking are going to be on a temporary basis. They aren't permanent employees. The building itself complies with all of our setback requirements for industrial uses in the I-1 district. We have no concerns regarding lot coverage, as much of the driveway is proposed to be gravel. So really the only impervious surface that we have is the structure itself. The building height is just a single story structure, which is 13 feet at its highest point. And so no issues with compliance with the 40-foot maximum. In terms of an architectural evaluation, the building itself is quite plain, as you'd anticipate an unmanned essential service building to be. So what we've asked of the applicant is to provide some elevations of the structure. It's fairly simple. It will be browns, beiges in color, so it will be pretty nondescript. There's no proposed dumpster location or screening required for the dumpster. This is not a large producer of waste. It would be removed on a regular basis by employees of the site. The fence itself, there's a fence that surrounds the building and the valve structures, a 7-foot chain link fence that will have barbed wire along the top of it, which is permitted in this district for this use. We've asked that the applicants clarify color, and we understand that it's going to be black. So again, pretty nondescript, nothing too wild that we would be concerned about. We have asked that a mechanism be provided which would allow for emergency access if necessary. In terms of outdoor lighting, there's going to be a motion activated light on the building, I believe is what we discussed, and we can ask the applicants to verify that information, but we don't anticipate any light intrusion at the property lines. Outdoor storage is non-existent on the site. In terms of circulation, there's just the one driveway in, one driveway out. and the drives are wide enough where theoretically you could have several vehicles parked on the site and not run into any issues. There's no loading zones, as this is not an active use. In terms of landscaping, one of the things that we have accommodated the applicants on due to the COVID situation was removal of trees along Old Plank Road that were necessary to facilitate the pipe and building install. Typically, those removals would get approved at the Planning Commission, but we gave the applicants approval to remove those trees as we found that there was no issues with the tree preservation ordinance, and they were running into the cutoff date for the endangered bat species. Had we not approved the removals in advance of that, this whole project would have been pushed back a year. So we've done that under the authority of Supervisor Dolan, who has some expanded authority given our situation. So in addition to those removals, there are 3 English oaks that are shown on the plan to be replaced or to be installed north of the driveway, which comply with the ordinance. In terms of sidewalks, there's not a sidewalk shown on the site plan as would be required per our ordinance. At this location, we really don't see the need for the sidewalk. And so, as you can tell in our reference letter or our review letter, that we would not anticipate or we would not recommend the Planning Commission require that sidewalk to be installed, and instead would recommend the development or the sidewalk fund option for the use. Based on our comments in our May 5th review letter, we would recommend approval, subject to some of the elements you see: building elevations, lighting elevations, fence fabric information, all of which have been addressed by the applicants in some form or fashion. So our comments have been satisfied. The only item that we have remaining open would be any concerns from the engineer, public safety officials, and the township attorney.
Okay, great. Thanks, Brian. Let's hold questions till after Leslie, and then we'll, if we have questions. Leslie.
Okay, I'd like to reference our May 8th review letter, which is in your packet. We are recommending approval as noted of the site plan. One of the conditions is that the site is proposed to be fenced, and it's really a question that the fire marshal should provide input whether or not they need access inside the fence. Other than that, the comments are minor, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right, good, thank you. Lisa, anything?
We have no legal concerns with this submission at this time. Like, I can take questions if anyone has any questions.
Okay, all right, thank you. Patty, I guess we can go through.
No, I'm good with
Nothing
this
right now.
too. I'm good.
Okay, Jim Chuck.
No issues, as I understand it. It's basically what they have now. They're just kind of updating it and making some improvements. So no issues.
Okay, all right. I have no questions. Mr. Pennington.
No, I have no issues.
Okay. Kurt Radke.
No issues.
Okay, Carl Town.
Yeah, I guess this could be for the applicant. I'm curious on the exterior heater and the filter. I know everything is going to be fenced in with barbed wire, but I'd like to know the purpose and of the heater and the filter that'll be outside. I don't think that'll be in the building, but if it's in the building, maybe the applicant can tell me.
Okay. Brian or Leslie, would you know? No. Okay. Okay. Applicant. If you're here, name and address, please.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Joe Lawson, here representing Consumers Energy. Our address is 1 Energy Plaza, Jackson, Michigan, 49201. Start my
All right.
video. Here we go.
Welcome.
Thank you. Just to answer the last question there in terms of the heater and the filter separator. The heater and the filter separator will be outside the existing building. As odd as it sounds, the heater is not to heat the building, it's to actually heat the gas. As we decompress the gas, it chills, it becomes cold as you decompress any gas. So the heater is there to warm up the gas before it gets distributed on the distribution system to obviously our customers. The filter separator is the same thing. It sits outside as well and filters the gas before it goes out into the system. The overall summary that was given by staff was accurate and thorough. To answer the couple of questions that were posed, the lighting itself will be on a switch. It will only be on when we have staff members on site. It will not be on all the time. Emergency access, we have no issues. If the fire marshal requests a Knox box or a Knox lock, it's really up to him. It depends community between communities. A lot of fire marshals, if something were to happen inside the facility, they're not going in anyway. Basically, there's nothing you can do with a gas fire but turn the gas off. But if the fire marshal wishes to have that access, we're happy to give that. Elevation drawings, Doug Scott, our engineering consultant, is also with us tonight. If you have questions, sorry, I forgot to mention that. But we can provide those elevations. Doug, do we have any now or?
Yeah, I can pull some up here. Yeah, maybe I can. I thought I had it. Go ahead and keep talking, Joe. I'll see if I can pull one up.
And as mentioned well with the sidewalk in this particular case, we discussed a payment in lieu of as opposed to the installation, and we're also happy to do that as well, to provide that payment to the township. I believe that covered the questions, unless there's something else I can answer for you.
No, that was good for me, Bill. Thanks. And it was actually, I never thought of that when you said that if the fire department wanted to come in, that'd be fine. But when the gas blows, they're not going to go and try to put it out anyways. You got it. So, touche. But thanks for explaining the heater.
Yes, sir.
How often do you think they'll be visiting the site?
Generally, it's usually one crew once a week. They just go in, check the facility, make sure everything's secure, and then they leave. As part of this upgrade, we're doing remote valving. So it can be, the valves can be actuated off-site. We don't have to have people on site to activate or to switch those valves anymore. And that's part of the upgrade for the facility.
So is that primarily during the day, or would they be visiting the site at night?
Generally during the day, if there was some sort of an emergency, obviously we'd go out at night.
Okay.
Hence the lighting that we would need, but most of the time it'd be normal business hours.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Jim Chuck,
Sure.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
All right.
I'll make a motion AP-20-09 be moved forward based on the McKenna letter stated May 5th with the issues and considerations, along with the May 8th letter from CES.
All right, very good.
This is Carl. I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, Kelly, if you could take roll, please.
Sure. Carl Town,
Yes.
Kurt Radke,
Yes.
Ron Pennington,
Yes.
Michael Conflitti,
Yes.
Jim Chuck,
Yes.
Patricia Carcone.
Yes.
All right, very good. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, much appreciated.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, if Chris, excuse me, Chris, if you're there, AP 2019 Private Roads Text Amendment.
Okay, so hopefully there are less internet problems now. I apologize about that. This item is we're returning to you guys on solar energy systems. Earlier in the year, you reviewed a proposal to amend the zoning ordinance to permit roof-mounted solar energy systems in all districts where they had previously been only permitted in residential districts. Because of the stay-at-home order, the item didn't go forward to the township board. And
Chris, I'm confused, Mr. Tom.
You know,
I thought you mentioned we were looking at the roads.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's my fault. I jumped ahead. He's correct.
Okay.
We should do
Okay.
solar panels first. Sorry.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
Oh, I apologize.
No, not your fault.
Excuse me. In the meantime, in the past several months, we have received a request from a contractor for the Zeiss building to install roof-mounted solar energy system, which is significantly larger than what was previously allowable in the zoning ordinance. The solar energy systems in the residential districts were permitted to be a maximum of 10 kilowatts in size, and that total size remained in the amendment that we proposed. And it seems that is insufficient for buildings that are significantly larger, the industrial and commercial buildings, and ultimately they would prefer an energy system that is up to 500 kilowatts. And so this amendment that we were proposing does away with the limit on the size of the system, but keeps in place the standards for location and screening. And ultimately, we believe the same intent as the previous amendment, was more permissive for larger buildings. And so if it's acceptable to the Planning Commission, we're prepared to make that modification to remove total size limit and submit it to the Township Board for approval.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Patricia, did you have any questions or comments? You're muted.
I
There you
got
go.
it. I unmuted it.
Okay.
I think it's certainly needed, and I think the amendment or the new standards seems fine to me, and I like applaud them for wanting to use energy efficiencies. So I'm all for it, and I like the graphs because I think Carl asked for those.
Yeah.
So I was good with it.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Mr. Chuck?
Yeah, same comments. I mean, that's the future. This is where we need to move as a society. The illustrations that Brian or were provided, or Chris, that was great, and I have no issues with it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Since these units are considerably heavier, how is the structure fit into this as far as the ordinance? I'm sure it has to go through engineering and architects, but is that a concern, or does that need to be in there anywhere?
Well, I think that what really limits them is just the size of their building. I guess I would defer to Brian or Leslie if there are structural concerns, but we aren't the only authority that reviews these applications. Before they come to the township, they go to the energy company for approval for systems of a certain size as well.
Okay.
I would add that in addition to that, they will require building permits and electrical permits for these. So the building official will have an opportunity to review those items, structural integrity of the building, that sort of thing. So, but as Chris mentioned, we found out through this process that that ultimately the energy companies don't want solar arrays larger than are going to be sufficient for the building itself. Basically, they're allowing up to the anticipated demand created by the building, which should help limit some of these systems a bit.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Ron?
No, I think it looks good. I agree. I think in my experience, the building department will look at the structural loads on the building before they allow them to put it up there. So I think that's in their ballpark. But otherwise, I think the amendment looks good.
Okay. Kurt, anything to add? Mute, unmute. There you go.
Sorry. If there was a high use of energy in a building and some kind of a manufacturing facility, and they wanted to go larger, the planning commission, they're going to have to abide by the other rules where it's going to be hidden and not, I mean, it couldn't, we would still have control, right? We're not giving away control by leaving no maximum.
Correct.
If it doesn't look right, or
Yes.
it sticks out like a sore thumb in the wrong area next to residential area or something, we'll ultimately have the final say, always, right?
It would still have to abide by the same rules that were considered the last time. The location and the screening on the flat roofs still applies.
Okay.
This just allows them to have a larger system if they have the space to do it under those same regulations.
Okay, I'm good.
Mr. Town?
Yeah, I like the idea of putting in that solar array up. I think it's a great place for it. Obviously, Edison put one on 96, and that's pretty close too. Mike, you did bring up some good points that I had on my list too. And I was just curious that that's a relatively new site plan. So I'm curious going forward if those site plan has to be amended. I think maybe it's something that should be looked at before it goes aboard. I'm all for it. I just want to make sure that our I's are dotted and are crossed because of the size of the building and everything. So if we could check and make sure before it goes aboard that it doesn't have to have a revised site plan, it is a big change. And then obviously the fire department will get the specs on that, because if there's battery storage, they'd have to know all that kind of stuff too. So that's all I just want to say, I guess, for the record, but I'm sure we'll look into that, and hopefully Brian will take care of it before it goes to the board. So those questions are answered. But I'm all for it.
Good deal. Thanks, Carl. Leslie, did you have anything to add? No. Lisa? No. Okay. All right. Okay. Do we need no motion on that one, correct?
Well, so I think what we'd like is a motion to permit the modification to do away with the size limit and a confirmation that this isn't such a substantial change to the proposed ordinance that requires another public hearing.
All right, this is Carl, so moved.
Okay, all right. Very Carl, who supported?
Patty.
I did.
Patty, okay. All right.
Brian, this is
go ahead.
Lisa Anderson. Is this a recommendation to the board, Brian? Or Chris?
Yes, this is a recommendation to the board. It's We're really asking for an amendment to the previous recommendation to the board. Yes.
Okay, all right. So you're good with your motions?
I am.
Both of you? Okay, all right, good. Kelly, if you take roll, please.
Ron Pennington,
Yes.
Patricia Kirkland,
Yes.
Jim Chuck,
Yes.
Carl Town,
Yes.
Kurt Radke,
Yes.
Michael Conflitti.
Yes. Okay, very good. All right, thank you. Now I'll go to private roads, AP 2019, private roads text amendment.
Okay, so I'm going to do this one for you guys as well. Starting in 2009, an amendment was made to the zoning ordinance that prohibited the construction of new private roads within the township, and since then, no private roads have been constructed. This amendment is actually two amendments, and one is to the zoning ordinance to allow the construction of private roads. Included in the packet was also a code of ordinances change to chapter 36, which is outside of the zoning ordinance. I'll get to that in just a little bit. But in our memo, some of the highlights of the proposed ordinance to permit private roads are the permission for private driveways of up to 330 feet for 2 residences, gravel private roads of up to 1,000 feet, and paved private roads of up to 1,500 feet. Private roads would be administratively reviewed, except in cases like PDs and site condominiums, where they would require planning commission and township board review. The ordinance seeks to, I'm sorry, I lost my place. It includes an engineering review for all and legal review for all easements and maintenance agreements prior to construction, and requires access for all non-residential uses will be paved via the RCOC standards. So as I said, there are two items in this, and one is an amendment to section 1209 of the zoning ordinance, which previously disallowed the construction of private roads and would now permit them. And then the second is an amendment to chapter 36 of the Code of Ordinances. The Code of Ordinances amendment is the one where you'll find all of the new standards for the private road, all of the approval processes and appeal processes, and all of the fee structures. So because that item is in the Code of Ordinances, it is not an item that needs to recommendation to the Township Board by the Planning Commission. However, there is the amendment to section 1209 of the zoning ordinance, which would now permit the construction of private roads in accordance with that previously mentioned chapter 36 of the Code of Ordinances. And so we're giving both of these to you to kind of review and comment and offer questions about. There's no public hearing tonight and no action is required on this. It's a little bit like the sign ordinance where it's just a little bit of time to digest and look it over. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Chris. Leslie, did you have anything to add to that?
I can answer questions. We are going to,
Okay.
Once we hear your comments as well as the township board, if these are approved or approved with modifications, then the engineering standards would also be updated to add some additional items that applicants would have to comply with. They'd still have to provide a design of the road, especially the situations where it could be up to 1,500 feet. And those types of details would be identified and documented later.
Okay, all right, thank you. Lisa?
Nothing specific from legal on this at this time.
Okay, all right, good deal. Patricia, what questions?
Well, actually, I just saw it today, so I read it, but I kind of want to spend some time looking at it because Brian sent us some, or Brian put together some, I don't know what you call it, road, the angles and the cul-de-sac.
Cul-de-sac.
And
Yep.
I wanted to talk to him about it, and I really didn't get a chance today. Because I went into the board pack and it wasn't there. So I just got it this afternoon. I don't know, maybe you guys already had it. I hadn't.
Okay.
So I need some time to look at it. I'm sorry, I just do. I
Okay.
mean, I'm all for private roads. I'm going to tell you that right now. I totally agree with it, but I haven't had a chance really to go through what I wanted to. I had 3 Zoom meetings today, so.
Mhm. Okay, that's fine. Do we already have a public hearing scheduled for this, correct?
We do have
anyone
a
know?
public hearing scheduled.
No, I don't think so.
We do for June 8th.
Yeah.
I'd like to give you a little bit of background. So this is the Township Board and John have been getting a lot of inquiries regarding private roads, and what the general feeling is that because we require such high standards, the RCOC standards for roads, we're really bumping up the level of investment that's required to develop any amount of land within the township, which is really pushing, we feel that it's pushing developers to add density to pay for the cost of some of this development. And so, we're feeling some pressure to get these ordinances moving, and we've taken a look at surrounding communities who still allow private roads, and we've really based some of these recommendations on the length of the private roads that they permit, the number of lots that they permit to take access off of them, and that's really been kind of our inspiration, in addition to some of the things that we know from administering ordinances that are problem points for these private roads. The maintenance agreements and the easement documentation that's infinitely important for the future. It may not be an issue in the next 5 to 10 years, but 20 to 30 years when you have turnover of all the property owners, all these documents in place are important for consideration. So, this is not
June 8th. This is already scheduled. Is that correct?
We have scheduled it for June 8th. In terms of the process, the Township Board is going to consider the regulatory piece at their June 1st meeting. And so, again, we wanted to keep these things kind of in line because the zoning ordinance piece needs the hearing, and the board can technically take action on the regulatory piece in a week. We wanted to keep a relatively tight timeline for the two.
Okay. All right.
Well,
Thank you.
Brian is correct that the Township Board, we have had a lot of people requesting it. And we had a discussion at the Township Board, and we felt that, first of all, we give most of the roads, if they're not a private road, all the roads are going to the Road Commission, and they don't have the money to fund them or take care of them. We also want people to have larger lots. Well, they want to have larger lots, but they have to put in their own roads for that. So, but we're not allowing private roads. So it makes logical sense that we go back to allow some private roads so people can go in. Maybe you have, 3 family members and there are 4 of you, you want to split into 4 lots. But then do you know the expense of putting in a road per the specs for the Road Commission? It makes it unaffordable. So we talked about it, and that's why they sent it back to the Planning Commission to get some private road ordinance reinstated, and we think it's a good idea, and I do too. I'm 100% for it. It's just you know, we're gonna hold our public hearing, but that's how that whole just came about. I don't blame them. People buy property, they want to split their property and put their little road in, and maybe they want to, you know, give it to their kids or grandkids, or I think it's a good idea.
Can I add one more thing, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman?
Yeah.
You know, I understand we had a bit of a mix-up administratively of getting these ordinances in the packet, so I do apologize in the delay and the late email this afternoon. Carol and Leslie and Chris and I have worked pretty closely on developing these standards, and John Dolan too has had a lot of input. I think we're very close in terms of all of the process and procedures and things like that. The things that are probably most beneficial for the Planning Commission to consider are really, I'll say 4 things. We've defined the 3 different types of private roads that Chris talked about: the private driveways, what we would allow for gravel private roads, and then what we would require as a paved private road. Those are 3 things that bear a lot of discussion in terms of, do we like the lengths of those roads, and do we like the numbers of those roads? And then the other piece is the approval process. So, you know, we're comfortable reviewing these as administrative reviews, unless they would go through a typical approval, you know, through the Planning Commission for a plan development or for any of the average lot size developments, things like that. Leslie's reviewing all of these, will be reviewing all of these for detailed engineering to make sure they work and comply with our engineering standards. So those are the things I think bear discussion more than all of the intricacies of the development of maintenance agreements and things like that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Jim Chuck.
First of all, Brian, I appreciate the comments, kind of bringing us up to speed, and Patty also listening to both of you. I'm somewhat indifferent to it. I'm not against it. I'm not for it per se. I suppose I want what's best. Personally, I probably wouldn't want to live on a private road just for some of the things that the maintenance, but I understand the extreme cost if you go through the road commission. So I'd like to think about it a little more for the public hearing. I'm sure I'll come up with more of a definitive yes or no, but that's really all I have. But it's interesting, some of the things that were just brought out. So that's my comments.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So the idea behind this is to open up more property. Can you explain, I guess, Brian, if a piece of property is landlocked, like I live on a private road, and it is rather costly maintenance, but there's some parcels that are landlocked, and people on the road want to put an easement in to get to those parcels. But from what I understand, there's a required frontage. It has to be equivalent to the size of the property. Could you explain that a little bit to me?
Yeah, that provision of the ordinance is to, in many cases, we're going to be considering a lot split or something along those lines that we would consider administratively typically, but we would want to make sure that the lots are conforming lots with the zoning ordinance. So that would be, in the case of a new proposal, we would not allow, per this ordinance, we would not allow the private road to be built unless the lots on it or possible for it could comply with our zoning ordinance. We want to set our residents and property owners up for success, essentially.
Okay.
In the instance where you're already built, though, I think that's a bit of a different discussion, potentially, unless I'm misunderstanding your question. I'm sorry.
No, not currently built, but people are looking to possibly sell the property, but there would have to be an easement put into to access that, or they want to split off a parcel that would be landlocked.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So one of the things that we instituted in this ordinance is as part of the easement agreements and the maintenance agreements, we're requiring the developer to include provisions that would address access in the future. If there's potential to access one of these private roads, we want them to describe and put into the agreement documentation a method for allowing that. You know, whether it's a vote of existing lots or whether it's a strict no expansion policy, however the developer wants to address that, we don't necessarily care, so long as it's in the documentation, so that we don't end up with the township trying to play a part in the expanded access to a private road.
Okay. All right. And then the other question I had was again, using my own experience, private road, we had a quote is roughly 600,000 to pave or asphalt the road. And Patty, could you tell us or tell me, I thought that could be incorporated into taxes over so many years.
Well, you could ask the township board, basically to either do, a special assessment, but we would probably have to pay for it. And then we would, of course, bill you back over the years. And we've done that for a couple people. We did that for, Martindale Road between the two subs, Martindale Meadows, and I can't remember the sub, that's next to it. Darn.
Twin Pines?
No,
No.
right next door to Martin,
Road digger.
yeah, off of, Road
Road
Digger.
Digger.
Thank you. So we've loaned them the money to pave that, and we billed them back over, I think, 10 years. We've loaned the money to repaving, resurface right across the street from the township hall. We've done that. And so you'd get a petition to the township board asking to basically you're borrowing the money, and then with a interest rate and over so many years. So that normally is what we do. It's a special assessment, and then we roll it on your taxes.
Do you need the majority of the people on that street to what is it, like 60%
or more?
75%?
Yep.
Okay.
The law says 50, but we never go with 50. It's been 75% or more.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Ron.
I think they did a good job. I think it looks pretty good. I am curious for the public hearing, but I don't really have any issues with it.
All right. Very good. Kurt?
Yeah, I'm in favor of it. I was just confused when we were talking about the distances. The private driveway, it was read that 300 feet, and then for the Class B gravel, I thought I heard 2,000 feet, and then paved was 1,500, and that confused me. I was going to ask a question, but I think it might have been a mistake because in the graph, I can see it's 330, 1,000 for gravel and 15 for paved asphalt. But I'm good with it. I don't know if we need to correct the records. If Kelly's taken verbatim every word. I don't know if you even caught that, Kelly, but.
I got it.
Okay, good. Thanks, Kurt. Carl Town.
Yeah, I think the theory is good. I think, again, we got to look at the length. In theory, it looks good. Again, Brian doesn't say go back to the legal issues, but that's the deal breaker for me, that over all these years, we had to rectify these bad situations with private roads. That's why we went to turning them all over to the county. So with that said, if all the legal ducks are in a row on the road agreements, we shouldn't have that problem going forward, but there's no such thing as not having a problem with homeowners. So no, I understand the board's thoughts on those, and I agree. So let's move forward.
All right, good. Thanks,
Mike.
Carl.
Mr. Chairman, do you need a motion for
Please.
this or?
Well, we already have a public hearing scheduled, so I
Okay.
don't believe so.
Right.
Any other comments? None. All right, very good. All right, let's move on. AP 20-08, Dependent Living Facility, Conceptual Review. Chris?
Yes, so we have a conceptual review for a 5-acre parcel that's in the Enclave's plan development. This 5-acre parcel was purposely left as it was when the PD was developed, and in the PD it states that it must develop to the uses that are permitted within the R10 district, and so this conceptual review would propose a senior living facility, which is permitted as a special land use within that district, and so could be considered there. Mostly what I wanted to make you all aware of is the conceptual review proposes 100 units, and so there's a really important distinction in the zoning ordinance, and that's between dependent living and independent senior living. And so the zoning ordinance permits for dependent living up to 20 units an acre, which would be exactly 100 units for the 5 acres. And then the independent living only permits 8 units per acre, which would be 40 units. If all of the units were independent, only 40 units could be permitted, but if they're all dependent, 100 could be permitted in this case. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Let's check with Leslie first. Leslie? Did you have anything to add?
No.
No?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, Lisa?
No, nothing for the discussion.
Okay, all right. Does anyone have questions, or you want to hear from the applicant first?
Applicant.
Applicant.
Okay, all right. Applicant, you're up. Name and address, please.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
This sounds like Randy.
It is. I don't think I can be seen.
No, you can't.
Hold on.
All right.
Good evening, Lyon Township Planning Commission. Good to see everybody. I hope
Rock on.
I hope everyone is healthy during these crazy times. I have not been in front of you in a couple of years.
Kelly, you have the information you need?
I do.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Randy.
Is there a screen sharing opportunity here?
Yes, there is.
Yes.
Please proceed if you know how to do that.
Okay, Madeline, I've got my IT tech.
Your 8-year-old daughter? Yeah, okay.
See if this works here. It's actually Andy Milia's daughter in his house. But you know what? Let me give you, while that's getting set up, let me just give you a brief overview of my thought process of why I'm in front of you tonight for feedback on this conceptual review. The site is, as mentioned, is on the corner of 10 Mile and Napier and was a 5-acre piece that was cut out of the Enclaves of Lyons PD agreement in 2013. In 2013, during the site plan approval process, this piece was contemplated for some type of independent or senior living facility. And as someone who has developed 400 single family lots up and down 10 Mile Road in Lyon Township the last 11 years, there's nothing that is more, based on all of our homeowners and the homeowners that have moved in from all the other buildings, there's nothing that's needed more than a place for these people's parents to live in a great quality community, great quality product, and convenience to those homeowners. There's probably been 2,000 homes built the last 10, 11 years up and down 10 Mile. And when you're a 40 or 50 or 60-year-old, you're the one making the decision where your parents are going to live when they're 80s or 90s. And the two most important things when you're deciding where your parents are going to live is, number one, quality. And I hope that I've proven to you the last 11 years that everything we do is quality. And this dependent living facility would be of the highest quality. And number two, convenience to where the adult children live. These 40 and 50 and 60-year-olds who have bought homes in Lyon Township the past decade. And there really is not a lot of great quality options. There's some, but not enough. I believe there's 3 or 4 years ago, a 70-unit facility was built across from the high school. But at the end of the day, up and down 10 Mile, there's thousands of houses, and there isn't places for these people to live. So what I propose to you tonight, I'm not sure if you can see the screen sharing or not, but we have gone through the ordinance and we have met every step of the way, from height of the facility being 2 stories. And this is just conceptual. So architecturally, we don't have any plans yet. If we get positive feedback from all of you tonight, we'll move forward with the official site planning process and jump through all the hoops that are necessary to receive an approval. But the concept is within the setbacks, within the height, within the units per acre, the parking, we want to check every single box and create a super high quality dependent living for all these people who live up and down in Lyon Township with their parents. And when I have been in front of you in years past, the 2 items that are always discussed from a development standpoint is density and traffic. And from a density standpoint, we're not going to ask you for 1 more unit than what the zoning calls for. We'll probably have 95 to 100 units in this 2-story building. In the traffic, the dependent living, the average age is in the mid-80s. Statistically, there's about 80% less traffic per unit than a single-family home. So we're not really adding much traffic to the 10 Mile and Napier interchange. The roundabout, totally off subject, I think, is helped with the congestion as it is. But with the dependent living and the average age in the mid-80s, we're not really adding to traffic. When we met with the staff, one of the items that was very important was that there was vehicular circulation 360 degrees around the building. We've provided for that. So emergency vehicles, 360 degree access around the building. And we're going to, build with great quality exterior materials, a building and facility that everyone at Lyon Township would be proud of as well as we would. The setbacks are within the ordinance. The parking calls for 1 parking space per 4 units, plus 1 space for each employee at the peak level of employment. So there's 25 required for the residents and 12 for the employees. That's 37 spaces. Our plan shows 39. If there was a desire to have a few more, we have no problem, accommodating, whatever the planning commissioners think is reasonable. And I just, want to get the feedback of all of you tonight. That's my goal, is to get your feedback. Is this something that would be well received by Lyon Township, by the planning commissioners? My opinion is it's desperately needed. Great quality places for all these people to put their parents as they want to age in a great township.
Okay. Thank you, Randy.
Mr. Confetti, can you hear me?
Yes. Who's speaking?
We're trying to put the screen share up, and it should be on Madeline Millia's account. Is there something that you can do to permit her to post the screen?
Yes, she is. She does have access. All participants have access right now. Are you seeing the screen share button?
Yeah.
And then when you select the screen share, do you see the document you would like to share?
Nothing comes up at the moment.
Brian, do you have it available?
I do. Is it it's the 4-page?
Yes.
Yeah, I can share that right now.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that was in our packet.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I've really gone through, this is a good aerial of the actual site on the corner of 10 Mile and Napier. The entrance would be off of Napier, far away from the intersection to avoid any traffic or decision-making. And when you pull in, you see there's 39 parking spaces, 360-degree vehicular availability, the length of the building, the setbacks of the building, all within the ordinance, on-site detention. And I'd love to get feedback from the planning commissioners and if they agree with me that this is something beneficial to Lyon Township and well received.
Brian, can you share the summary page?
The next page, man. Yeah, thank you.
So if I can add, I'd just like to say from the planning standpoint, the use, I mean, as Randy stated, is a special use in the district and it's permitted per the PD agreement for the enclaves. One of the things that we are interested in from a staff perspective is whether this is the right spot for that use. You know, we've had some applicants for assisted and senior living in the past where the applicants may have not heard feedback from surrounding residents in advance of developing their plan. And so I'd like to hear whether or not it's the right spot for senior living, what potential items that Randy's team should be considering to mitigate as they're going through the process, things they can help to assure that it would be a quality development in the Planning Commission's eyes.
Yeah, that's fine. Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
are you ready for
Yes.
comments?
Sure, yeah. Randy, are you done?
Yeah, I'd
Sure.
love to just have a discussion and. an
Okay,
open
all right. All right, good. Let's start with,
If I may?
oh, go ahead. James, you're anxious? Jump in.
I can already see, I mean, I'm jumping ahead. I'm gonna jump around a little bit. Public hearing, everyone would agree, and I'm a big proponent of it. Absolutely, we need this in the township. Actually, Randy, my kids are approaching 50 and one day they're gonna have to put me somewhere. I don't wanna leave the township. So it's a product that's needed. The problem, most people would agree, but maybe not next to me. We're going to face that almost regardless of where a developer wants to come in. I mean, this doesn't belong on Grand River next to, our manufacturing. It's kind of off the beaten path. Napier Road is not exactly a main thoroughfare. I saw the land being cleared and the signs and everything that are up there. So I'm in favor of it. Obviously, the neighbors are going to be the ones that are going to say, well, I think it needs to be buffered well. I'm jumping ahead. I know this is just conceptual, but there is a need for it. If it's done properly, if it's landscaped properly, sound barriers and so forth. That would be my input to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And this, interestingly, that you brought up the location, only one of the 4 borders of this site borders a residential neighborhood. 2 of the borders are the roads, 10 Mile and Napier, and the third border is actually the secondary entrance road to the enclaves. So the one border that borders the residential, we would heavily landscape with large evergreens to create the buffer that you're speaking of, Mr.
That's what I was hoping you would say. That's what I was hoping you'd say. I saw that on the, in the presentation or the slide there. That would be, looks like there's about 7 or 8 homes there.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents, and I know it's conceptual. I'd be interested to see as if we move forward. I think it's a great project if it's done properly, and it certainly is a product that's needed.
Mr. Conflitti, may I address the
Yes.
planning commission as
Sure.
well? I
Yeah, please.
address Jim's comment specifically. I think it's a very good comment. Part of the reason that we're excited about it is that when the Enclaves PUD was contemplated, was planned in 2013, I believe, this project was mentioned at the planning commission, and it's actually in the documents. So the neighbors that this would immediately affect, had some forewarning to it, as well as we've developed everything to the north corner as well. So, these people are used to it. But I think Jim raises a very good point, and Randy, augments it with screening and landscaping. And of course, as we do all the developments, we would go and meet with all the neighborhood groups beforehand to get their buy-in as well. So I think it's a point well raised and one that we anticipate.
Great. Glad it's in there already, so to speak. Yep.
Very good. Thank you. Patty.
Okay. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
we can.
Yes, I actually do like the location because I think it's right off that roundabout, but Napier going south isn't as densely populated. I think it's smart. I mean, I like it there, but I think it's smart if you absolutely do your homework and go to visit those neighbors, because that's what, I don't want to say that's what matters, but they're going to be 100% affected. And I think that is a very wise and smart decision. Second of all, I would like you to explain to me what's the difference between independent and dependent, because I kind of would like to know that. Make sure you have plenty of parking. I know you said 39 spots, but I'm telling you, every time we have an assisted living, a dependent living, there seems to not be enough parking. I don't know why that is, but it's packed. So I think people do come and visit their family. I think, I know these people probably don't drive, but I think it's more people visiting. So I'm just gonna, and again, if you meet the ordinance, I understand, but sometimes you might need a little extra parking. And when you go around the building, make sure there's plenty of space, that if there is a fire truck or an emergency vehicle, even if the entrance is off of Napier, I understand that. But if there's any other doors or anywhere they have to take patients out for an emergency, you want to make sure there's nothing that will block that for delivery trucks or anything. So, and I know you're probably buying this from Sauvé, right? Is it?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So I don't know what they have told the buyers that are already there and existing. I just, we want to be careful, heavy screening, like you said, Randy. I appreciate that. And even, people get picky. Howard has done a good job and placing trees for people. That might be a consideration. If, people stand in their backyard and they want them spaced here or there, or who knows where. That's a good thing too, because if you work with them, it helps us make those hard decisions. So I like it. I agree with Jim, Chuck. It certainly is needed. And our population, which is me, is getting older, and we have to go somewhere. So I think it's a good spot. I really do. So those are my comments.
Thank you.
Patty, we will meet with the HOA of the Enclaves and Rathmore Park.
Yeah, we just want to, our responsibility is to both developer and the resident, but the residents are already there.
We want to
So we want to be very considerate to them. And I know you will do a fine job. That's just my 100% concern.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Very good.
And make it nice.
If I might add,
sure.
The notices for a public hearing for this use will actually go to anybody within 300 feet. So you are going to have notices go to the Novi residents on the east side of Napier. So you may wish to reach out to them as well.
Good point.
They have an opportunity to come and speak just as much as the Lyon Township residents. So keep that in mind.
Is Island Lake really within 300 feet of them?
Is Island Lake?
Yeah, I don't know if it's within 300 feet.
No. He's
There
talking.
are homes on the east side of Napier.
Correct.
You got to
Just
get down
the,
to 9 Mile
Yeah.
for a subdivision.
You're talking the northeast corner?
I'm speaking
Randy?
even across the road to the east on Napier, all those parcels, the single family parcels that front Napier that are in Novi will receive a notice
If they're 300 feet.
if they're within 300 feet of the property line. Yes.
Right.
I think it's a good idea and we would certainly meet with them as well.
All right, very good. Anything else, Patty?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Again, it would behoove you to meet with the residents, and I just wanted to throw in the word behoove. That's the only reason I said that. Have you done senior housing before? I know you.
I've actually got senior developers lining up to be my partner on this because of the location. And I just was waiting for this meeting before I formally choose who I'm going to partner with.
Are you looking at is it like a chain or a?
It'd be somebody who did a number of these.
Okay, so these similar ones have been built before, so you'll be able to bring in some examples.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go further.
I don't know. I'm going to make sure that this is a beautiful quality development. I know it's an A+ location. I know it's an A+ township, but in terms of the actual operator, I'm going to bring in a partner to work with me.
Okay. All right. No, I think it's a good location. I think your occupancy rate will be full. You're probably lucky. If this goes forward a couple of years down the road before it's in operation, I assume.
Yeah, our thought process is we go through, however long the approval process is, whether it's, 6, 8, 9 months, and it'll take about 12 to 15 months to build.
I'd be curious to hear once you speak with some of the residents, if there's, and this is probably short thinking on their part, but if there's a concern with senior housing and the COVID high rate of COVID cases in senior housing, but again, that's more short term.
So this is not a nursing home. This is not a nursing home.
No, I realize that. It's just that it'd be at the higher age range. Yeah. And but hopefully that's not even a thought when you're ready. But no, I think it's a great idea. I really do. Who's Ryan?
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues. I think it's a great location. I appreciate that you've addressed a lot of the hot topics that normally come up. Traffic, I think it's a good spot for traffic wise. It's not going to affect our school systems, which is another hot topic usually at public hearings. I would just say, yeah, the buffering against those other houses is going to be a big deal. Make sure and do something great back there, and good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, Kurt.
I would just add, we've talked about the quality, but Stefan Hoffman, our architect, is not here. And I know Stefan and as well as all of us, we want to see a high quality product all the way around the building. The homeowners are going to be looking at the back of the building. So even though you're going to buffer it with some evergreens, they're still going to be able to see it. I hope it's a beautiful building.
We expect to do high quality architecture all the way around.
Good. I'm good. I think there's a lot of positives. I agree with all the comments.
All right, Carl Town.
Yeah, hi fellas.
Carl, how are you?
I've got a couple things that you might want to zone in on as, garbage pickup. Maybe be creative and maybe pick up the garbage the same day that neighborhood gets picked up. Lighting, pay attention to the lighting. very important. They don't want to look out. They're so used to not seeing, they're seeing dark sky. With the new LED we've been bringing on board. I'd like to see something really creative in the lighting to maybe really buffer it from that those back homes. And then, be a little bit more creative. I was at a senior home that brought in the children from the neighborhood on Halloween, and they went trick or treating through the dependent living. Things of that nature that maybe you could present to the neighborhood behind you. But I do think it's a good fit. It's we've talked about that stretch a little bit as far as maybe some rezoning that has to take place. But as a special land use, there is a need. It's 100 units. The density is great. The coverage is great. I know you're going to do a great job with it. A few other things, but I think everybody else pretty much covered everything. But I do like it. I like it a lot. And I know it's going to be a super building if it's approved. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Carl. All right, Randy, Andy, you have anything else to add?
I could just ask Brian procedurally, what steps do we need to go through for, special land use in terms of number of steps?
Sure. The special land use, the public hearing is held by the Planning Commission. So we would review site plan and special land use standards concurrently at the same meeting. We typically do those on the first Planning Commission meeting of the month so that you have enough time to get approval and give the board a chance to review documents. Because the second step is the township board, which reviews that special land use. So assuming all goes well and the site plan has no issues, the Planning Commission typically will approve that site plan conditioned upon approval of the special land use by the township board.
Okay.
So it's a two-step process to get through zoning approval, and then it would be on to engineering and Leslie's review.
Great, thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
you all set?
Yep. Really
Okay.
appreciate everybody's feedback.
Great.
All right,
Thank
thank you.
Thank
Hey,
you.
both.
Randy,
Good to see everybody.
good to see you too.
Stay safe.
Absolutely.
Bye. All right, we've got oh, you know what? Let me ask Lisa, at what point will we have meetings again? Will it be after June 15th at the Township Hall? Is it depend on the
I
state?
think it's too early to tell yet. We're still,
No.
waiting
Mm-mm.
on, Patty's shaking her head no.
No, mm-mm. Nope, we're not. We will see what the governor's gonna say after June 12th. So we're still
Right.
we'll be doing all Zoom meetings. The township board's having their first Zoom meeting on Monday. But we have no plans at this time to let anybody back into the township hall until we see what the stay home, stay safe is. And then we're still we're waiting to get our new plexiglass installed. And so right now, no in office meetings. I mean, no, planning commission, we're just not having those boards either. So we'll advise when we see what the governor still has to say.
Okay.
And it might be a while. We might not open the hall. It just
Really?
not for right now. Yeah. No,
Hmm.
not right now. I don't think.
Well, I'm glad you shared that with us because now I can make plans. I can do a Zoom meeting from if I go to Texas.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
okay.
there's too many ifs right now. And, I think I can't speak for her, but I'm just thinking logically that she's probably waiting to see what happened this past weekend with, Memorial Day, and probably look at the numbers again. I mean, she still has the state of the emergency till the 19th. The stay home, stay safe is till the 12th. So even if she says, go ahead and open your doors, I think it's gonna be up to us to, we might even limit when people come in. I don't know, we'll be talking to Carol about that. And, we've talked to today I actually talked to Green Oak Township and the city of South Lyon. And we're all kind of on the same page. We don't want to open our doors to the public either too soon.
Isn't the building department open?
The building department is open, but you cannot come into the township hall. So we have drop boxes outside our doors right now, like big plastic containers. So say you want to pull a building permit, you can call us anytime, by the way. Call us, email us. We are still working 8:30 to 5 Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4 on Friday. So we're staffed, partial staff. People are working part-time and from home, and the building department is there in full force. But so if you are pulling a building permit, you will put your plans, your application, your check in the inbox that's outside the township hall. And when they call you when they receive it, so you know that you've gotten it, or email you, and then it goes through all its processes. And then when you're ready for your building permit, the building department calls you and says, hey, your building permit is in the outbox. So then you come and you pick up your building permit, and you're ready to go. And then you're calling, we have inspections, Dave's doing them, and still we have our inspectors are still working, but they are not allowed in the township hall. We don't let anybody in the township hall. I'll tell you that right now.
Patty, this is Jim. I have a question.
Sure.
If you want an absentee ballot, I mean, August is just around the corner. I noticed we got our mailings. Does that just go in the Dropbox also, where you would put
Yes.
your
Michelle
water
sent
bill?
out. Michelle sent out the applications last week.
Oh, they're here already. Yeah.
I got mine.
Yep.
You can drop it in our circle driveway, or you can mail it back to us.
Very good.
We're not letting you in the hall right now, so she'll get all the application. We've gotten a lot back already. You'd be surprised.
It's good. Okay.
And now how people are actually gonna, I mean, easy if you're going to do it by absentee ballot. I mean, we get, you get your ballot back, but you got to sign for it. So it's going to be interesting. And I think Michelle, I'm not sure the state has figured that all out yet, to be honest with you.
Well,
so
I'm sure everybody's trying to figure it out.
Well, we have to
it's
be
new.
really careful. You have to be able to vote.
Yeah,
You have
well,
to be able to
absolutely.
pay your taxes. There's lots of things that we have to make sure that we provide the service. It's just to what extent. I mean, taxes will go out, July 1st, and they're due September 14th. We've never taken credit card payments over the phone, and we've got to change that too.
I know, and I'm sure you guys are doing a good job trying to
So
think.
we're,
through it.
it's honestly, I can't even begin to tell you. We probably called Carol, and I've called Lisa. Lisa's kind of even at a better advantage because she's already been to the two. Now this is her second Zoom meeting with us. Excellent job, Lisa. Excellent. She answered some of my questions that I had after the last board meeting that we had. And but we're figuring it out. It's almost like a day by day because they change the rules every time we think we're going to have everybody come back, after May 28th. Well, that changed.
Yeah.
And so we have to be very careful that we follow the rules and provide the best safety for both our employees and our residents.
From our
So we have
perspective-
all the, we have everything, we have all the hand sanitizers, the masks, everything that we are required to do. And now we're just there. We just John went and picked up, I think, the kits to reopen the businesses. Oakland County provided them. So it's kind of really a crazy thing, but we all wear our masks. We follow the rules. We're very respectful to everybody. Once in a while we get a little old man that's at the door and we kind of let the door open and we go, can we help you? But you can't come in. So, and we guide them, go put it in the Dropbox. We'll send you a receipt. A lot of people email us and we email them back right away. I mean, we are still at your service. And almost even more because, you know, we get things at night. People, I see our employees emailing people back at night. And on this holiday, people were emailing people about taxes. So it's interesting because if we were there, you know, Monday through Friday, people probably wouldn't answer their email, but they're answering their email because I think everybody wants to help everybody. So Michelle's working on that. It's really, the state will guide Michelle to how we do that, but we're doing the best we can, and we hope we're at everybody's service. Just we're limited.
Good. Do you have a report tonight?
I don't, because we didn't have a
No.
board meeting.
Ah,
Our
okay.
first board meeting is going to be Monday, so that'll be interesting.
We'll be watching.
I'm using my iPad. I don't know why I couldn't get that to work today, but I'll figure it out.
All right. Anything else? Anyone? No one. Bueller. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Jim Chuck. Support by who? Is that Kurt? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? No one
Oh, does
opposes. All right.
Kelly
Good.
call that?
We can do that. Take roll, Kelly.
Patricia Carcom,
Yes.
Jim Chuck,
Yes.
Michael Conflitti,
Yes.
Ron Pennington,
Yes.
Kurt Radke,
Yes.
Carl Town.
Yes.
All right. Good job. Thank you, Ken. Anything else we
Good
need
job,
to
you guys.
Hey, we're the guinea pigs. This is our second one. It's
I
not quite as
know.
good as face to face, but we're doing good. So we'll meet
Yeah.
in
Do
2
you know
weeks
how
again.
many compliments we got? We got a
do? How
ton.
many?
We did. No, really,
One.
we did.
One. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it was not one.
Yeah. Carol's daughter.
Not true. Not true at all.
You guys
night,
are definitely
everyone. See
rocking
you
it
in
like
2
weeks.
pros.
See y'all. Bye.
Good
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
I just have to let YouTube wind down here for 30 seconds, but feel free to log
Okay.
off if you like.
All right. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Good. Thanks,
you, Penny.
Brian. Thanks, Chris.
Good night, all.
All right. Night.